Hello. I am trying to see, are there like chat controls? Is that it? Okay, so there's the group chat. And no one's here. So that's interesting. I'm going to close that out. And if I go to it, it's not live yet, is it? That's interesting. I'm going to close that out. And if I go to it, it's not live yet, is it? That's interesting. I'm going to close that out. And if I go to it, it's not live yet, is it? That's interesting. I'm going to close that out. And if I go to it, wait, no, go back. That's interesting. Well, still got 3 minutes before anybody shows up. If anybody shows up, watch, nobody will show up. I'm doubtful anybody will show up. So, yeah. So today's my day off. It's the first day of Christmas break, so I don't have to be back. Technically, I don't have to be back until January 7th when the semester starts, but I need to be back on January 2nd to get my office or my classroom cleaned and organized before then. So in the meantime, I'm just hanging out until then, so hopefully I'll do some sewing. So 2 minutes now. 2 minutes. We'll see if anybody shows up to this. I don't think anybody's going to show up. I asked people if they wanted a live stream, and people said yes, but the amount of people that actually show up for live streams, it's hard to say. Because I try to show up for live streams, but it feels like either A, it's in the middle of the afternoon, like now, technically, which was probably a bad time for people because you're working in the middle of the afternoon. But I wanted to pick a time that centrally that people could watch from like on their lunch break, or people, on the other side of the world, it's like evening time so that they could watch. But for me, like having it at this time would normally be impossible for me to watch because I'd be in class. But since I'm on break, this was a good time for me. Oh, finally, yay, somebody showed up. So Lizzie Gar 2011, hi, and Cassie Frank, yay, hi. So I was just kind of chit-chatting to myself, saying that I'm doing this live stream here because it's the first day of Christmas break, and I don't actually have to be back at work until about January 2nd. So I had some free time today and thought I'd do a little live stream and answer questions, any kind of questions related to sewing, baking, crafting. Akram's Ideas is about all things creative and fun. So I do a whole lot of those kind of hobbies, as well as what else do I do? Well, my day job is I teach computer simulation and gaming, which is a fancy way of saying 3D graphics and a lot of computer programming. So if you have questions about C# or other languages, or 3D modeling and animation, I can answer those too. But I get a lot of that during the day at work from students. So, but like I said, I'm just here to answer questions, hang out. I've never done a live stream. So yeah, if you've got some questions. I don't know why, but I've been really nervous about doing a live stream, but I have no problems public speaking. Like I can go out. Like I just recently gave a presentation to about 30 high school students, and I really had no script. I just had a vague idea of what I was going to say and a answer questions about our program and stuff like that. So I have no problem standing out in front of a crowd and answering questions. I think that just the thought that it was going to be live stream makes me nervous, but I actually did a live stream for a presentation that I did at a game developer conference network thing here locally, and I had no problems with that being live streamed. I don't know, just for my own personal channel, I've been nervous about doing a live stream. So I do have a new mic, so I got a nice podcasting type microphone for this podcast, so hopefully you can hear me really well. But yeah, feel free to ask questions and anything you'd like to know. I've got a little bit of time blocked out to do the live stream, so if you've got some stuff you'd like to see or like to know about, I'm still trying to figure out all the controls on what I can and can't do here inside of YouTube. But yeah, I've got my little Christmas tree right here. This is my auxiliary room. This is not my sewing room. So I actually have two rooms that are just my room, dedicated in my house. My husband got one room for his office, and then he got the entire 3-car garage. My car is never parked in the garage because he's got the entire 3-car garage filled capacity with projects. So because of that, he gave me the other 2 spare bedrooms. So one is my sewing room, and the second one is my auxiliary room, which is, if you've been watching my videos lately, this is my little stage here where I do a lot of my videoing. So I got a studio set up here. I do all my yoga in this room because it's an open space, or I got a lot of floor space in here versus the sewing room that's completely taken up by the sewing table and the cutting table and everything. And over on this side, I've got some instruments. I've got this lovely guitar on the wall and a little electric keyboard over here. I do not play a musical instrument. I just collect musical instruments. The keyboard was something that we had as kids. Like every year my parents would like buy a new keyboard or something. And so this is one that ended up with me. And then the guitar, my husband found this in an antique store for like $6. And he was all like, I want an electric guitar. He doesn't play guitar either. But he was like, oh, it's only $6. We can like take it home and play with it. It can be a prop in your videos. So we got a really nice mount for it. So it's hanging. So despite not ever using it, it looks really cool where it's hanging. And then actually I'll lift the camera up here. So this is a closet door behind me, and I just have 2 dresses hanging on the wall. The one in the back is vintage, and it's like a vintage 50s diner dress. I don't know if it's supposed to be a Halloween costume or if it was actually a diner dress. It is vintage. It's got the vintage tags in it, and it was a little small when I bought it, but it is actually fitting now. If I lose more weight, it probably fit really well. But I've just hung it on the wall, on the door here, because I don't really have a place to wear it, and it take up space in my closet, my actual closet. And then the dress in front of it, this frilly little dress, is something that I like bought at Ross Dress for Less like 12 years ago. It was like a prom dress thingy. And it was just so cute. It's a size 6, so it'll probably never fit me. But it's just so pretty. And I keep thinking to myself, I could at least maybe one day reuse a tulle. And it's got that sort of corset on the front of it. So I don't know, maybe someday it'll fit. But otherwise, it's just kind of pretty. And I think it looks nice kind of just hanging on the door. And that closet, this is my auxiliary room. So that's my auxiliary fabric closet. If you see my videos and you see my fabric room where I have the wall of fabric, I have a closet that is full of fabric. And then this is all my jersey fabric in there. And we're not even going to look in there because it's a mess. Well, I mean, it's semi-organized, like they're on a shelving, but Yeah, it's methy. How long have you been running your vlog? I started the vlog in 2016, 2016. Yes. So I actually started my blog. My Akram's Ideas blog started in 2007, and it was all over the place. It was a weird blog. It started off as sort of my graphic design portfolio, and then I was going to do like Photoshop tutorials. But then in 2012 is when I started sewing. And so once I started sewing, I decided I wanted to do vintage clothing and stuff like that. So the blog took a whole different turn. It got redefined, revamped. All those old posts kind of went away. And I focused on sewing and baking tutorials. And I'd been wanting to do YouTube for a while, but I never just felt like I was ready to do it. So I started the vlog in 2016. So this is season 3. And you can see that on the YouTube videos. I'll have like season 1, season 2, season 3. I know that's silly because YouTube doesn't really have seasons, and you could continuously number your things, but I like to know what year I'm in. So I'm massive about file management and naming and proper naming because of, well, programming requires that things be properly named or you can't access things. And you can't have spaces between your file names, and they have to be camel case and all sorts of other things. But so that's the logic that I have. So season 1's 01, season 2's 02, season 3's 03. I'm probably rambling. So the question is, yes, I started in 2016 with 46 episodes. Last year, I think I had 36 episodes. I'm hoping by the end of the year, I'll get a total of 40 because I like to end on a nice round number. I'm weird about that. I like even numbers. But right now I'm setting, the last episode was episode 30, 35, 36, something like that. But I do have a couple of videos pre-recorded. I just have to finish editing them. So I hope that is a roundabout way of answering your question about how when did I start running the vlog. So yeah, 2016. It feels like a long time and yet not a long time. Like I don't feel like I have a lot of content, but technically speaking, I have over 100 videos on there. So yeah, I've brought some iced tea in here for me because I wanted to keep hydrated while answering questions. Yeah, I'm a big iced tea drinker, but not like a Southern iced tea drinker. Like, I do live in Oklahoma, and depending on where you live in Oklahoma, you're either considered Midwest or you're considered Southwest or South. And most people just consider us Oklahoma because we don't really fall into any category, really. We don't really hit the cultural trends that you see in the South or the Southwest or really the Midwest. Oklahoma's kind of its own thing. But there are people who like their Southern tea, and that tea is based on how much sugar's in their Southern tea. I'm not one of those people. Obviously, I actually don't like a lot of sugar in, like, I like a lot of sugar in my sweets, but not in like drinks. So I always drink like diet drinks and stuff. But I am a fan of the Lipton's green iced tea, the diet kind. I like drink that all the time. That's my favorite iced tea. So, yeah, that's my go-to unless I'm having water. I do drink a Diet Coke every now and again, but I often watch these bloggers who have their little the UK vlog sewing vloggers. So I'll have their little cup of tea, and I'm like, oh, I should drink tea. I should drink warm tea, and I don't know. I think the effort to put that together, like I got to warm up the water, I got to get the pot out, I got to get the bag of tea. And by the time I drink it, I'm like, I put all that effort, I got to go do it all over again. I mean, maybe I should just keep a kettle on. Like I've got a tea maker. This basically like a coffee maker, only it's designed for tea, and it's also designed for leaf tea as well. Because both me and my husband like tea. We just lazy. It's like, I gotta make tea. I gotta like get everything out and put it together. So yeah, I guess that's the big reason I don't drink hot tea. But growing up, we drank a lot of hot tea. My dad is from Iran, which is over in the Middle East, and they drink tea all the time. So you like drink tea for breakfast, you drink tea for like afternoon, you drink tea after dinner. And so we had a lot of tea growing up. But I don't know. I just still I don't like a lot of hot fluids, I guess, too, because I feel like it'll keep me too hot. But yeah, I'm just lazy. I just want to do the effort to make the tea. Uh, so I'm again just kind of rambling. Uh, I don't really have a whole lot to say. I should be sewing Christmas presents right now. But I'm procrastinating. I actually cut out several of these Christmas presents in July because I was like, oh, I'm going to get an early start on this and actually make these presents for my sisters and stuff like that. And it never happened. Like I cut them out, but it never happened. So, yeah, I always do this. I always wait until like Christmas Eve or something before I start making stuff, primarily because December is when final grades are due. And so I'm so busy up until December 15th or something putting in final grades. And to this year, just because of the way the holidays fell and the school calendar, December 18th I was grading up until noon on December 18th when grades were due. And partially because I gave an extension to students to turn in by that Friday. So they had till Friday to do it. And then I had 3 courses. So it took a good 2.5 days to actually get through all those grades and projects. So that takes a lot of time. And then I feel like I just need a break after that. Like I don't want to like think about anything when I'm grading or after grading. So I didn't do any sewing for the last few days. Of course, I was just wrapping up stuff. But now that I've got the break, I'm going to try to do all my sewing today. We've got our family get together on Saturday instead of Christmas Eve, which actually is nice because I don't have to go anywhere Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, but I only have today and tomorrow to finish the presents. I am not making difficult things like they're quickie makes, but it's still probably going to take me a while because I'm just slow. I'm just slow at sewing. And if I try to make it fast, I end up with making mistakes, which is what I did. If you saw my horrible tale, or my sad tale, I should say, of the Christmas dress, which the first one was just, it was a bad fit. I actually took my time and the, what was it, the Lulu dress was actually well made. It was just, didn't fit right. But the Ola dress that I attempted to make was sheer rushing. Like I was not paying attention. And of course I sewed it up all at the wrong seam allowance. And so that caused me great deal of pain and misery and having to readjust all that. So anywho, so yeah, ask away, ask some more questions. Go ahead. Like I said, I'm just hanging out, answering questions. I had some, let's see, questions. Let's see if anybody's there on Instagram, because I posted on Instagram earlier that I was going to be doing a live stream and everything. But we'll see if anybody else shows up. I do like to bake. Oh, great. So how do you juggle your hobbies and jobs? It seems really hard. Haha. This is one of my students. Yeah, that does seem really hard. And it is. It's super hard. Yeah, mainly because work takes priority. So there are some weeks that I do not do any videoing. Like early August, I didn't do any videos online because I was too busy getting stuff ready for classes. Videoing takes not that much time. It takes maybe at most an hour to record a video. It takes about 4 hours to edit a video, which is rough. But I do those on the weekends mostly. So most of the time during the week, I don't even actually get to do the hobbies because I'm either grading or prepping for class or watching YouTube videos on how to do something in like Unity for gaming. But for baking, I do like enjoying baking because I actually have a bunch of guinea pigs, my students. I can bake and bring it to the club meetings. So yeah, their club meetings were poorly scheduled this year because I did not have the time the day before to make anything much for them. So this year it should be working better. I don't know, what do we choose, Wednesday or Thursday for the baking, or for the club meetings. And then that means I can bake it on a Tuesday because it's quick setup. It's actually not a quick setup for baking. Actually, baking videos take a lot of setup because you got to do the overhead shots and stuff. But most of my recipes are quickie bakes. So it always starts off with it usually starts off with a cake mix or a package of Jell-O, and then experimenting on stuff. So yeah, it is really hard. I try to batch record. Like over the break, I'm going to batch record all my videos for January. And so then I just have to edit. I batch recorded a bunch of stuff in August, but then I never got to edit them until like mid-September. So editing is a pain. If you've ever done any editing, and I'm not talking about like iMovie editing. I'm talking about full-on Adobe Premiere editing. And that is a pain because not only that, I actually try to shoot in a flat color so that I can color grade inside of Premiere, which allows me to create the contrasts and color things. And I keep trying to get it to look like a Wes Anderson film. I want that look. I want that pastel white coloring look. I want Wes Anderson's look. And I'm still trying to learn color grading as best I can and trying to get the most flat color from the video and then grading on top of that. And then, of course, your lighting changes and then it'll affect your exposure, which affects your color grading. So then of course, you got to do all the color grading. And then on top of that, you got to edit. And then I ramble. So this video, of course, is going to be rambling. What do you choose first, fabric or pattern? I have such an extensive fabric stash that usually I'll just like pick out the pattern I want and then find a fabric that will work with it. So I guess I'll start with a pattern and then like, what fabric do I have in my stash that will work with this pattern? And it usually ends up being of what the amount of fabric I have. So I kind of got my fabric organized by all my cottons are in one room and then all my jerseys in this one closet over here. So the other room is just cottons and denims and stuff like that. And I've got them on shelves, some of them, not all of them, because I've got so much, I just haven't organized. But I tried to organize them so 1 yards, 1/2 yards to 2 yards, and 2 yards, and then 3 yards and up. So I kind of have them on a shelf so I know this fabric has this much, this has this much. Now, occasionally I will purchase fabric and I will rush home and be like, that fabric, I know exactly what that's doing. But most of the time, I just end up with a pattern and I'm like, oh, what fabric is going to work with it? So I start with the pattern most of the time, if that answers your question on the pattern. So, So yeah, and I do have okay, this is the sad part, okay? I went to a local fabric store not long ago. They actually closed since I went there. They weren't far from the university, actually. I teach up at the University of Tulsa. So there was a store called Owl and Drum. They closed their shop, but now they have a booth inside Retro Inn. Or Retro Den, which is just up from the university. So they have like a Saturday pop-up shop inside Retro Den where they sell fabric. And they sell a lot of your nice fabrics. What's that brand? Cotton Steel is the big brand that everybody likes. Anyways, I went to their shop when they had it open and they had one wall of fabric. That was the entirety of the shop. It was just one wall of fabric, and then they had a little room where they did classes. And I came back home and I was so depressed because I was like, I have more fabric than a fabric store because I have my entire wall of fabric, but then I have the entire closet of fabric, and then I have a second closet of fabric. So Yeah, I got a ton of fabric, but if you've seen my fabric hauls, you'll see that um, I can easily drop $300 on fabric, but that is like 5 times, if not more, than what it would be to like pay $300 at like fabrics.com or something like that. I am getting like I get actual silk, like 10 yards of actual silk for $10 at an antique store. Because you know they were just destashing somebody's stuff, and so all my fabric is secondhand. Oh, Claire's on here. Hi, Claire, from Penguin and Prayer. She's got a really good video on her sewing machine collection. She just posted out on YouTube, which was kind of fun to watch. So yeah, so good to see you. But yeah, fabric. Fabric is my weakness. Patterns are kind of my weakness, but I often sit there and think, do I really need this? Am I going to make it? I think one of my biggest things is I joined the PDF club for Sew Over It. I love Sew Over It patterns. I love Sew Over It patterns because they fit me really, really well. How do you remember all your fabric in your stash? I do not. There is no way. I try to take pictures, so I've got a YouTube album that and most of the time I can kind of remember if I look at the photo. I was like, okay, I got about 5 yards of that. Okay, I got 2 yards of that. But I've got a Google Photos album, so when I bring home the fabric, I've been trying to do that. So some of my older stuff I didn't do that too, so it's just in my stash. But I've got them all folded on shelving, kind of like Sean from Kittenish Behavior. Do you see how she folded hers? I had originally had them on bolts, sort of like a fabric store does, but that became, the bolt was actually taking up more room than the fabric. So by taking them off the bolts and then just folding them really small, I got more on the shelf. So I've got them stacked, and I also try to stack things by color because I'm kind of obsessive. So it's like greens and blues, reds, purples, pinks. So if I have a pattern in mind and I have an idea of like, okay, I want something pink, I know it's going to be somewhere in this row because these are where the pinks are. Or if I want something in green, yeah, I don't remember all the fabric in my stash off the top of my head. I have to like pull something out and then go dig around. Oh, and my husband has saved me several times from fabric lanches. So occasionally I'm short and I really need a step stool in my fabric room. Then I was pulling some fabric and the whole thing like fell on me. And so he's like runs in there and I go like, eek. And he's like, what happened? It's like fabric lanch. So yeah, that's happened more than once actually. So I've been trying to keep a step ladder in there so I'm safer. And this is also why we don't have pets and children, because they could be lost forever in a fabric lanch. So yeah. So no, I don't remember all my fabrics. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll remember some of my very precious fabric. I probably should do, what is that stash tag? I know Claire's actually done a video on Penguin and Pear about the fabric in your stash, and I think Liz Sews recently did one as well. So it's I forget what the hashtag is, but I'm thinking about doing one of those because there are some fabrics in my stash that actually it feels like it's like one of my very first fabrics or whatever, like my older fabrics that you'd think by now I'd forgotten about. But I've got some really cool, really rare fabrics. One in particular I got at like this garage sale where they had these 8 trash bags full of fabric, which is really the start of my entire fabric stash. This was back in 2014, 2015. No, it was probably 2013. That's how long ago it was. But I went to a garage sale and they had like 5. Oh yeah, stash stories. That's what it was. Yes. But yeah, my start of my stash was these 8 trash bags full of fabric at a garage sale. And I was originally just looking through the fabric, seeing if there was any fabric that I would want to take home with me. And the lady's like, do you want fabric? And I'm like, well, I was just looking. And she's like, I will give you these 8 trash bags full of fabric for $8. And I took it. And what was really cool is like a lot of these fabrics actually had the tags still on them. So there were fabrics in there that were over $8 worth of fabric. But the coolest bit was there were 2 fabrics. They are a pink and gray tone. One is dots or squares, and then one is more of an abstract color. They are about 3 yards, maybe 2 yards each. And they still had the tag of Montgomery wards. And Montgomery wards, you know, the actual little tags. Was it No. Was it Montgomery wards or was it Sears Roebucks? I have a photograph of it. It's one of those, but it was like from back in the day. It had to be at least 70s, but the color of the fabric, I want to say it was a 60s fabric, you know. It actually reminds me a lot of one of the dresses that Jenny wore on the Midwives series. That was like late 50s, early 60s. And that's what this fabric looks like. And that's the age of what the fabric looks like. And it had the little tag on there from the store that really no longer exists. So I thought that's like one of my coolest fabrics. And so I'll always remember that story because I think it's just too cool having come across that. So yeah, I might actually do a stash stories video in the coming year. So anyways, what else? So what plans? Oh, my computer is doing updates or wants to do updates. I'm not going to let it. So I do want to do more crafting projects. While I do love sewing takes up a lot of time. And I just have so many clothes right now because I sew all the time. And I also have a really hard time letting go of clothes that I sewed, even though I'll probably never wear it. I made like that blue jumpsuit, the Abby jumpsuit, as a pattern test for the Athena Cuckoos pattern. And I made 2 jumpsuits. The second one actually fit really, really well at the time. It's probably a little big now, but the blue one, that one didn't fit at all. The fit was awful, and I had to make adjustments to the pattern to get it to fit right. But I feel like I made this thing. I don't want to get rid of it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll, you know, it's not bad on the top. It was the crotch had problems in the length of it. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just cut it and make it into a t-shirt. That would be nice. That's a thought. But then I have some other dresses that I made like really early on that are just garbage. They're just not very good at all. They like have the seams are unfinished, the zipper's bad, the fit is awful, but I'm like, I don't want to get rid of it. I made this. So I don't know. But I do have other crafting projects that I'd like to start doing more of on the vlog even. I did a couple of DIY stuff like the little soap dispenser I did earlier this summer where I wrapped it in twine. I have some scrap DIY projects because I've got a ton of scrap fabric. Again, I'm such a hoarder. At least that's what my sisters tell me, because I can't get rid of anything that I can feel like it's useful. Yes, keep early projects. Yes. I guess you could always go back to them and look and see like, how horrible was this? But yeah, I hoard everything because I always feel like I can reuse it in some way. I am always kind of like, oh, I could use this in this. And I use things in totally different ways than what they were meant for in certain circumstances. But I've got a ton of fabric scraps. I mean, they're not very big. I thought about quilting. I made a single quilt so far, and that thing took forever. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do that again. That took so long. But I have some scrap wreaths that I want to make. In the past, I've made some painted jars, and I do my jars a little bit different than everybody else does them on the DIY stuff. Everybody paints them on the outside, which you get this matte color. but I paint my jars on the inside. So you get the pretty glass. And so you get this nice smooth glass. The paint never scratches on the outside. Now, of course, if you put something in it, it'll scratch the paint on the inside. So what you do to avoid that is you get yourself sort of a disposable paper cup or plastic cup. I like the plastic ones because they're a little bit more durable, that actually you can kind of crop. I always use technical terms for standard terms, but you can kind of cut it to fit inside there, kind of hot glue it at the top. So whenever you're putting anything in the glass, you're actually putting it in this sub cup that's inside the jar, so you don't scratch the paint on the inside of your jar. And then you can finish it. I always like finishing the tops of the jars with something so that you don't see these raw edges or those weird ridges where the lid screwed on if I'm not adding the lid back on. So I do twine or ribbon on those. So I've got several of those colored vases that I've made. And I will say, we eat a lot of Cheese Whiz, which is probably horrible, but my husband makes these wonderful nacho cheese, and he uses Cheese Whiz in it, along with a can of, it's a super easy recipe. If you want to know it's a can of nacho cheese soup from Campbell's, a can of regular cheese soup from Campbell's, and like 2 big tablespoons of Cheese Whiz, and you toss it in a slow cooker. And I kid you not, it tastes like the nacho cheese at a movie theater. And you just let it sit in a slow cooker for a couple of hours, and that amount that I just mentioned will actually last us a good while, because we don't eat I don't eat all that much. He could have his own nacho cheese reserve, kind of like the Kids Next Door. If you've ever seen the Kids Next Door TV cartoon, they had a nacho cheese reserve. But because of that, we eat a lot of Cheese Whiz. And I'll say I love Cheese Whiz jars because the adhesive that is used to keep the label on the Cheese Whiz jars is water soluble, which means I can just put it in some hot water and the whole thing dissolves completely, and there is no glue residue or anything on the jar itself. It makes it super easy for DIYing. And it's a flatter jar, so it's about that big. I don't have one in here, do I? No, I don't. But I kind of have them all over my house as little vases because they're the perfect little size, and you can get little flowers to put in them and stuff like that. So Cheese Whiz jars. I also do the medium-sized pickle jars and salsa jars. Salsa jars, the picante salsa jars, have a really nice silhouette because they come like this. And so those are they give a different look to the vases. So I do other crafty stuff. A lot of times though, I just do it so quickly, I don't even get a chance to record it and stuff. So if you'd like to see more crafty stuff on Akram's Ideas, again, let me know. So let's see, what else? I'm planning to hang out as long as you guys have questions and stuff. I'm not going to hang out too long. Like, I'm not going to go past 2 o'clock, that's for sure. But want to make sure people have a chance to ask questions, and I'll try to answer those questions. I do like my little tree here. I thought about this. When I knew that I was going to get the tinsel tree, I thought, well, what kind of tree skirt do I want? And I wanted it to look like snow. So this is actually a little Sherpa type throw from Walmart. And it's got like these glittery fabric in it. And so it just looks really, really nice. And once the holidays are over, I can use this little throw to cozy up in. So it's kind of a nice little decorative items. Again, whenever I'm looking at things, I'm looking at like, how can I use this in multiple ways? So I was talking about hoarding things. Like yesterday, if you watched my Instagram stories, I was assembling our new plotter and vinyl cutter for the classroom. And these things came in massive boxes. And I actually kept some of the cardboard in the classroom because one of the pieces is about the right size that we could make it into a spaceship for an event that we're having. Granted, we could just buy some of this stuff. We've got budget money, but why do that? We've got cardboard right here. I've got students What am I making at the moment? Well, after this, I'm going to be making some Christmas presents. I've got a purse for one of my sisters. Again, I cut this out in July and pretended that I was going to get Christmas presents done early this year. Didn't happen. So I've got a purse to make for once. Well, I've got a purse to make for all three of my sisters. My mom, my mother-in-law wants a purse. And then I'm making a backpack for my niece, a little drawstring backpack. And then I'm making some stuffed dinosaurs for my nephew, who's like 2. Am I going to get those all done today? Probably not, but I'm going to try to. If I get done with all those, if those are like on the side note, I've actually already cut out a coat, which I want to say was 5022. It's a vintage pattern for a just a little blazer. It's kind of like the Cocoa coat from Sew Over It, that same style, but it has a collar. So it's not meant to be closed or anything, but it's a similar style of the Cocoa coat, only it has a nice sort of rounded collar on it. And I still had some leftover gold fabric from my sofa upholstery. And my gold dress, my red and gold dress that you may have seen about the sew frosting video, is sleeveless. And my husband keeps wanting to take me out to dinner in that dress, but I'm worried about freezing because it's cold outside, but in restaurants, for whatever reason, they typically keep it cold too. So I'm worried about freezing going out there, and I had some gold left over. So I'm making a matching gold jacket lit thingy to go with the dress. And the lining is going to be the red lining or the red fabric that is the top of the dress. So that's going to look really, really matchy, goldy. It's going to look interesting, but I think it's going to give it a 60s look. So that's the very next thing after the Christmas presents is the gold jacket. And then maybe I'll get into my actual sewing plans that I shared, the fabric's haunting me on the floor right here. I'm like looking at it like, oh yeah, I need to make that. So yeah, those are my current plans anyways. I think one of the biggest problems for sewing, like I wish I could just go in there and start sewing, but I'm such a messy person. Like I make one thing and the whole sewing room explodes, which is kind of the same reason my husband doesn't like me baking, because I make one thing and there's sugar everywhere. There's everything everywhere. It's a mess. I do clean it up, but it takes time to clean up. So that means that I now have less time to sew and stuff like that because I have to clean up everything. And yeah, like right now there's little debris of red fabric everywhere from my red dress makes that I haven't cleaned up. There's pattern pieces that need to be folded and put back in their places and things like that. And sadly, I also have some bags of fabric sitting around. Haha, you're the same. Oh, the Claire's like, yeah, messy. I know, right? You need that space to be creative and just like push things aside and like, yeah. Yeah, my office gets that way at work. One day I was noticing, actually, I'll backtrack here. I was noticing Natural Dane's last 2 videos she posted in her office. And so one day maybe I should record in my office. My office is too cool, but sometimes my office gets hugely messy and I just gotta like spend a day cleaning on it. Oh, that's why you hate baking. So Whitney says that's why she hates baking, because of the mess. Yeah, sometimes I don't feel like baking because I know it's going to be messy. One of my biggest pet peeves is powdered sugar. So my husband says I do these powdered sugar explosions because I just kind of toss it into the mixer and it just goes everywhere. But I hate baking with it because of my messiness. It goes into the air and I like inhale it. So for the next hour or so, I feel like there's sugar in my lungs or my throat. Like I feel like I've eaten a pound of sugar. And like I don't even sometimes want the sweet after I've made it because that taste of powdered sugar has been in my system for so long. So I hate like buttercream frosting and even marshmallow fondant frosting because it takes like 6 cups of powdered sugar and it just illuminates the residue inside the house is like this cloud of powdered sugar that I'm constantly walking through. So yeah, that's kind of a turnoff for making anything with powdered sugar. But I'm hoping on my wish list or whatever for Santa was this shield thingy for the mixer when you pour things in so it doesn't go splattering. So maybe I'll get that and don't have to worry about the messiness of it all. So, anywho, what else? I do have some baking to do for Christmas. My family's doing this weird, they're doing this weird Christmas thing. Okay, my family's weird in general, but they're not on here. They said they were going to jump on here, but they're not. So I can say that they're weird in general. But we're having it at my sister's house. And we always kind of do it at my sister's house because she's like, I have 2 kids and it's hard to travel with 2 kids. So we're doing it at my sister's house, but also she's actually right now, she is in surgery and I hope she's doing okay. It's nothing hard. She's got a cyst on her wrist that they're removing. And so it's like an in and out patient. So I think, is it her right hand? I don't know. I think it's her right hand. And so they're removing that and she won't be like hand mobile and she'll be on painkillers as well. So because of that, she wasn't going to cook anything. So she's ordering pizza, which, okay, I get it. It's a get together. You want a large meal. So we're ordering pizza. But then my brother insisted that they have tacos. So my mom's bringing like a bunch of tacos. And then my dad wanted a shrimp cocktail because he's like, what's the holidays? We have to have a shrimp cocktail. It just gets weirder from there on. Like shrimp cocktail, tacos, pizza. But yeah, so that's what the meal is on Saturday. I am bringing an apple cider cake with maple frosting, which I did not give this to my students. I gave this to the faculty. I made this for the last meeting of the year that I had at work. And it's actually super quick and easy. It's one of those recipes that's like, this is so easy. It's a cake mix, and in place of the water, you put apple cider. And then I also tossed in fresh apples inside the mix as well. And that's pretty much it. The frosting is maple syrup and like a tablespoon of powdered sugar. Maybe it's 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar and maple syrup. And was there butter in it? There may have been a little bit of butter. But it's like a very glazy like substance in the sense that it's not a heavy buttercream, it's a more droopy, but it's basically what they put on those maple long john donuts. It's the same frosting. It tastes just like that. And I pour it or not pour it, but drizzle it on the cake. So it's really, really good. And I tend to make bundt cakes. I love bundt cakes because they don't need frosting, and I don't particularly like frosting, even though I am actually Wilton certificate of because I took all 3 of the Wilton's courses as like, was it Joann's or Hobby Lobby? One of those places had this Wilton cake decorating courses. So I know how to pipe. I know how to do roses and all the decorative stuff and the little lacing, which takes forever. I did that once. I actually made a wedding cake for somebody once, and that thing took forever because I did this sort of drizzle thing on it. And again, like I probably would never do that again. Because I feel like I've got sugar in my mouth the entire rest of the day, even though I haven't had a bite to eat as far as the cake or anything. It's just like sugar everywhere. So I don't actually like frosting. And because of that, I typically make bundt cakes that don't really require, they look great without frosting. So you can just sprinkle a little powdered sugar, or you could put like a little glaze or something on it. Typically, I don't even put any of that on it. So just regular bundt cakes. And then, of course, pie. I love pie. My whole family, we're just more of a pie people than a cake people. And especially for me, for my birthday, as we had cakes occasionally on my birthday, but my birthday is in October and it's early October. So I always requested the first pumpkin pie of the season would be on my birthday. So the first pumpkin pie we'd have would always be on my birthday, which is still a ritual that we do. Me and my husband, every birthday for the last few years now, we will have pumpkin pie and we will watch the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And I don't know what got into this ritual, but we started it. It was his idea. He was like, oh, I know what you're going to want to watch. You're going to want to watch Harry Potter on your birthday. And I don't know why, but it just feels like an autumn-y movie. It starts off kind of in September or whatever. It's just, I don't know. It just kind of goes through the rest of the year in the movie. And that's one of my favorite Harry Potter movies. Not my favorite Harry Potter book. Now I've gone on to a totally different topic, but my favorite Harry Potter movie is Sorcerer's Stone. And I love that movie because it is so incredibly well edited and timed. The transitions between plot A to plot B, it goes really, really good. What a fun tradition. Yeah. But it's well edited. It feels like time has passed in the movie. It feels like all the seasons are gone through. And despite having some things cut out of the story from the books, it's still really well done and organized. And so I think that was my favorite. I think the other movies, it doesn't really feel like they've gone through a whole school year. The timing just doesn't feel very good. And what was it, book 5? It's The Order of the Phoenix. That's my least favorite movie. Also my least favorite book. And I'll go into the reason that my sisters hate watching movies with me. Because I am a complete analytical person that says people would never do this. This would never make sense. And I'm one of those people. And they have to remind me the opening theme song to Mystery Science Theater that's like, don't worry how they eat and sleep and breathe, because it's just a movie. Just sit back and relax, you know? That's what they remind me. But oh my gosh, you've never seen Harry Potter, Claire? Where have you been? Have you read the books? You've got to go see the movie. Like, have like a Harry Potter-a-thon. That's like saying you've never seen Star Wars. And there are people out there who've never seen. My youngest sister has refused to see Star Wars because she thinks it's cool that she's one of those people who've never seen Star Wars. Like, no, you've got to see Star Wars. 3 movies. Like, okay, let me go back. Movies that you have to see in your lifetime: Star Wars, Harry Potter, but really you only need to see the first Harry Potter because it's the best timed. You should read the books. The books are far better. The Lord of the Rings is one that I would say, it's not like everybody's cup of tea for Lord of the Rings, but I really enjoyed The Lord of the Rings. But another one that I would say everybody should watch because it's one of my all-time favorite movies is Back to the Future. So, yeah. So, like, movies you have to watch: Star Wars and Back to the Future. And probably The Sorcerer's Stone. I hadn't watched the Harry Potter until a few years ago, read the books, but waited to watch until I could marathon them. That's probably a good idea too, because waiting all that time for those in-betweens, yeah. So I would say, yeah, if you've read the books, wait and then watch them all back to back. You haven't seen Star Wars or Lord of the Rings? Oh my gosh, Claire, you need to get out there. You need to go watch some stuff. But yeah, don't really with Star Wars, The New Hope is like the iconic film, just the first one. The second, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, they're really, really good too. But all that other garbage that they came out with, no, it's sad. I do love at least you love Back to the Future. So yeah, that's something. Yeah, Back to the Future has been one of my favorites. But of course, it's a Michael J. Fox film, which is always a fun. I grew up watching Family Ties. If you are familiar with that TV series, which was Michael J. Fox's start on television. And I was like, probably, how old was I? This was before I was in kindergarten. I'll tell this hilarious story. So I watched Family Ties all the time, and I kind of had this kind of crush on Michael J. Fox. I'm like 5, so I don't really know if I could say that this was a crush, but I loved his character Alex on Family Ties. I loved it so much that when we went to get my kindergarten school outfit, like they're like, okay, you're going to kindergarten, you have to pick out your outfit. And my mom kept trying to get me to buy this little pink dress. And this is true story, because I have pictures of me in this green suit. I picked out this dress that had a blazer. It was like a mint green blazer. And I'm like, no, I'm going to get this blazer so it's a suit. And then when we picked out the backpack, I got this like portfolio backpack that was purple. So it looked like a briefcase, just like Alex had on Family Ties. So I had a suit and a briefcase. And yeah, so that was my first day of school. Was I'm in this little green dress suit and a purple briefcase. Yeah, that was, yeah, you love it. Yeah. Oh yeah, Doc Hollywood was another good one. But yeah, it was hilarious. So that's what I wore the first day of school for kindergarten. Is this little blazer suit and a little purple briefcase, which I keep telling myself one day I'm going to actually recreate some of the clothes that I wore as a kid. Sewing wise, one in particular is a jumpsuit. I don't particularly like jumpsuits right now, really, because you got to take the whole thing off to go to the restroom. And that just annoys me to no end. But there was a jumpsuit I had when I was like 6, and I lived in that thing. It was purple and white striped, and had a little collar that was purple, and then had a little pair, it was a play suit, so it had a little pair of purple shorts as the jumpsuit part of it, and then it had this zipper that you could unzip the whole thing in the front. And I loved it. I think partially because of the way it was constructed and it was all in one and it had the zipper. I could put it on myself without any help as a very small child. But I have a lot of pictures of me with that. Oh, that would be awesome. I'm going to try to do that. I don't know. It seems silly to make clothes that you wore as a child again, especially since my sister is currently dressing my 4-year-old niece, in clothes that she currently wears. Like, she's dressing my 4-year-old niece like a 16-year-old girl. Like, the last photo I saw of her, she had like a shirt that had the cold shoulders and then ripped jeans. And I'm like, she's 4. She needs a frilly dress. She needs a big bow. But that's not cool, I guess, for my sister to be putting. That's why I don't sew clothes for my niece and nephew either, because she doesn't like what I make them. You could make a pretend play suit so it's easy. You know what? That's probably a good idea. Something that looks like a play suit. Maybe, yeah. So make like a waistband around the shorts so it looks like it's all in one, or maybe snaps or something at the waist so that you could take it off. That's a good idea. I'm sure somebody's got a tutorial on how to do that, on how to make something look like a jumpsuit, but then not really. And then Gertie Patterns just came out with that new play suit pattern. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. I think you have to have a nice figure for that Jane set that she's released. But then on top of that, it's got all that boning in it. Gertie loves her boning in a lot of her patterns, and I just don't have the mental energy to do all the sleeves or all the little envelope pockets and do the boning on everything. Seems so technical, not technical, but time consuming. So yeah. All right, so we are nearing the 155 mark here, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. So if you got some questions, last minute questions, go ahead and ask now or forever hold your peace. Let me know if you'd like to see more live streams and Q&As. Again, I don't know. I still feel nervous about doing the whole live stream thing, which is weird because like every day I go in front of a classroom and start making up stuff as I get. I have a vague idea what I'm going to say. Most of it I just make up. Some of it they don't even get the jokes that I made. Like somebody said something once, and I made a reference to Beetlejuice, and they had no clue what I was talking about. But most of my students are born in 2000 or later. And so, yeah, I guess that movie doesn't make reference. Yes, they're fun. Oh, yeah, well, the good thing that the live streams are fun for you guys. I enjoy watching the live stream videos. Even the long ones. Like I just watched the live stream that Cherry Dollface did. Like it was like an hour or some odd long video, but I love those. I just wish that I know about them ahead so I could participate live, but I usually just watch them after the fact. So the rest of my day will be spent sewing Christmas presents, hopefully, if I'm not too lazy. But yeah, this has been fun. I've enjoyed you guys coming and participating, asking questions and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely going to do some more. I think my biggest problem is just having a setup so that I have a space that's clean because I'm messy. Like, I don't try to be messy. I'm actually really organized. Like, my fabric's organized. I got labels on things, but I just have a hard time putting things back where they're supposed to go after I've used them. And so things just kind of, if there's a flat surface in my house, like a tabletop of any kind, it gets filled up. Sean's miss. Okay, bye. All right, so that's it, you guys. I will talk to you later. So I'm off to sew. And I hope you guys go off and do something creative. Yeah, bring your creative and crazy ideas to life today. So I will catch you later.